Good morning. Thank you for joining the April 3rd VOLTHA TST call. So we are recording the session as usual, so it can be posted later to the VOLTHA playlist. And this is the last Tuesday meeting that we have before the April lockdown. And since also our Sprint 4 is supposed to close at the end of next week, this is also the last chance we have on a Tuesday call to review the JIRA status updates. And after this, we'll have to go to email since next week's meeting will be canceled since we're having the face-to-face for the VOLTHA lockdown. So we'll go ahead and get started for today. Any questions before we kick off the meeting? Okay. The first item we have here is going over a few new JIRA tickets that have come in. So the first one, let me bring up the right screen here. VOL 666, and this one is already in progress. This is in the current sprint, but since it is new since last week, I wanted to bring it up here for visibility. And this is to disable swap when installing Kubernetes. And let's see, Ken, I do see you're on. If you wanted to speak, that's fine.
I think it's already submitted or in the process of being submitted.
Okay, all right. So this one is on track then.
Yeah.
Any questions from the group?
What is the just for curiosity, what is swap?
This is more something during the installation of Kubernetes. We use kube spray to install most of the components. And if a swap is not disabled, then kube spray just doesn't work.
Okay.
All right. Then this one, let me go to 667 is the next new issue. And this one, I think there's been a little dialogue over the comments. And so this is provisioning of OLT no longer working since VOL 622 commit was merged. And Ken, I know that you took a look at this and replied back with some comments. And let me see if
Nick probably still on vacation.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay. So he will not be on the call today. All right. So since he's on vacation, I'm guessing we're probably not going to get a response back here quickly. Sean, do you know if there's anyone else we could ask on the AT&T side related to this one?
What was the merge for? Which can you go back up to see? Is it VOL 622?
Yeah, it's 622.
What was that for?
622. That's for the one that forces adapters to use a MAC address when they create logical devices. So if they don't, then it will create an exception.
And so the question that's going back to Nick, and since he's on vacation, we won't get a quick response here, is making sure that the adapter is providing the MAC address of the OLT device. And so that's what we need some follow-up on from the AT&T side. So, Sean, I don't know if there's anyone else we can ask or if we need to wait till Nick's back.
One question, because I know Nick is using the edge core adapter. So I think it's testing the edge core device. Why would this question back to Nick and see whether the MAC address, is reported by the adapter?
Right. So that's the question that's gone back right now.
But why the community require Nick to provide the response?
Oh, okay. Got a good point there.
Yeah, this is not to require from Nick. Basically, he's doing the testing, and in this was just to make sure it's the edge core adapter has a MAC address, but also to check the VOLTHA logs. If the log clearly shows there's an exception with that, then we know the adapter is not providing the MAC address.
Okay, so my question back to the community, right? I'm sorry I have not played with this for a while. Is last time when I was working on this one, the the MAC address is not being used as part of the PDID, right? So and it was still using the 0001, 0002. So has the adapter been changed and then use the MAC address to support this? I think the community should be able to. Yes,
Sean, this is Kim. Yes, that has been done in there. There was two commits, one on the adapter side and one on the driver's side.
Okay.
That the driver's side pulled the MAC address from the edge core and then and passed it across to the adapter. Then the adapter uses it for the DPID. So
okay.
So there's.
Which means that he probably didn't update. He probably
didn't update the hardware. Yes, I think he
didn't
probably
update his driver on the edge core, so it's not pulling. It's not giving the MAC address when he does the transaction.
Yeah, and that should show exceptions somewhere in logs. If that.
Brian, you're saying. I think my suspect is the adapter has changed because it pulled the VOLTA. I think the OLT has not been updated. So I suspect the driver from the edge core still reporting, not reporting the MAC address. So Kim, you're saying that the driver on the OLT stuff you need to change also, right?
He wants them to pull a log to make sure that that's actually the case.
Okay. I think Nick is on vacation now. I can get Mike to look at this one. Julie, I'll ask Mike.
All right.
But fortunately, we have not seen this other than AT&T Foundry, so hopefully that's just a version issue.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's go on to the next one, 668. And this one was also from Nick, provisioning and removing OLT and ONU leading to inconsistent state. And so again, this is with the edge core. And provisioning an OLT with one ONU, disabling OLT, and then reprovisioning it and adding a different ONU leaves the first ONU in VOLTHA's memory. And he's got some steps here that could be used for reproducibility. Okay, so you create it, query, disable the OLT, delete the OLT, and then reprovision the OLT with a different ONU serial number, query VOLTHA again, and then he has a little additional info on what was required to clear the issue, and that was refreshing the Docker containers. So has anyone from the community been able to take a look at this new issue? Or do you have follow-up questions that need to go back to Nick for this item?
One question I have is when the OOT is deleted. I think what he did, he deleted the OOT. And then OOT and child ONU were deleted, and then okay, and then.
Is there a place where, I mean, I guess the question probably to the community would be, is there a place where we're persisting the registration of the ONU on the VOLTHA side or on the driver's side where a delete may not be removing that reference right now to where it's still, persisting after the delete?
Yeah, I think Brian was really saying maybe deleting the OOT may not removing the ONT information, right? But he's using the ONT different serial number. I often when we do it during the last year during the park is usually they bounce the VOLTA and then also the owners to start from fresh.
But usually a deletion will remove everything from like deletion of an OLT and ONU will remove that data directly from the VOLTA memory, and even if there's a KV store attached to that, it will be removed from the KV store.
So bouncing the basically restart VOLTA and owners from fresh should not be required, right?
Yeah, it should not. And even if you restart VOLTA, if the KV store is still there, then it will take the data that is in the KV store. But typically, like if you're deleting an OLT and then deleting an ONU, that delete will go to the core, that will delete everything in the core memory from that OLT and ONU, and that will be reflected in the KV store.
Where's the store at?
Can you
right now?
explain that story? Brian, hold on one sec. What was the term you used in front of store? It sounded like KV.
KV.
Yeah, KV, the key value pair. It's pretty much
okay.
Yeah, it would be.
I got you, like a YAML pair. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where's the store? Is that in the core right now?
Well, it depends on how everything was started. I guess if it started everything, it will have a console KV store that would be together in a container together with the VOLTA core.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Is there a specific file that you think the pairs are not being or removed in? Where specifically would that be? You know the file name for that particular reference?
It's all in the KV store. It's not a file name per se. It's a bunch of hash keys. So it's looking directly in the KV store. It's a little bit difficult to see that. It's really like looking at the logs of when those actions are done.
I think what he's asking is where are in what part of VOLTA is that persistence enabled? Like where is it? Where is the transaction going through to console to store that? I guess we're just trying to look at. I mean, obviously they're reporting an issue here, saying that when they're doing the deletion, that it's not removing it. So I guess we just wanted to maybe go and I kind of just wanted to look through it and see if I could find and trace where it may be persisting even after the deletion, so I can try to maybe help the community, find where the issue might be.
There's no file per se. You need to look into the config, and the VOLTA there's a directory called config, and under that there's a bunch of files there. And basically, like the way VOLTA is structured, everything is made with callbacks. So whenever you update the memory, either you add, update, or delete, there's a callback in the background that get invoked, and that callback is the one that writes to the KV store. And
the callback's defined in the config?
Yes, I will tell you exactly if you want to poke around.
Yeah, I just wanted to go look at it for my own education.
Device manager.
Okay, sure. So you have to go to the VOLTA core and the config. You have a bunch of files there. This is really the memory, the data model, how everything is being processed there, and you will see something called. Let me see.
Is that the one with all the YAML files in it?
No, not that one. There's no YAML file there. It's in a VOLTA core config.
Yeah, I see all the config the different Python files that are inside of here. So I guess I just got to look for the.
There's one like config_rev_ persisted, and this is the one that persists everything in the KV store.
Got it. Well, I'll just look through this. I don't want to bog down the call. We can go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Brian and Bill, if there's an additional question, let's go utilize the Jira system, and then the community usually respond very quickly.
Okay. I'll clean that up later. All right. Then I think that's it for the new issues. I checked just before the call, but I'll check one more time to see if anything was opened since we started. And I see nothing, so that's good. Okay, I think next we can go into a quick status update on 1.2.1. And I don't think John was on the call. I did get confirmation from him yesterday that this has been, that 1.2.1 has been created. And so he's going to get an update to the community and then update the VOLTHA issue as well. And then at that point, we have the release notes we'll need to complete and get up. There is a draft, just a preliminary draft in place right now that captures the patches that were included. And then we'll need some updates in sections below that potentially as well. But we have a start on some release notes for 1.2.1. So I think that should be done fairly soon. David, I know that Jono was working with you on that. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't have anything really to add other than last time I talked to him about it, he was working on making sure the auto builds happened correctly for the Docker containers.
Okay.
I haven't followed up with him on that, so
okay.
I assume you got it working.
It sounded like it. All right. Thank you very much. Okay.
Hey, David, I have a question. So I think Luca was saying because they want to combine that with the release of the core, and the core is using Kubernetes today, and then the final Kubernetes will not be part of the release until 1.3. So do you know exactly how they tag the 1.2.1 release?
What do you mean how they tagged it? They tagged it
if
just like they
need the Kubernetes support,
yep.
the Kubernetes is not there. Are they? I mean, do they just tag it on the master branch or something like that?
Well, again, unless we cut an official release with the Kubernetes stuff in it, they do not get the Kubernetes stuff in the official release. I thought they had copied. I know they'd been working with Rich, Ken, and Gopi have been working together. They may have just copied some of the Kubernetes information over and reused it that way as opposed to relied on a source code release. I don't know for sure. I'd have to follow up on it.
Okay. So potentially, I think officially the 1.2.1 doesn't have Kubernetes support, right? Officially.
Correct. That is still Swarm support.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. I think next on the agenda is going over Sprint 4 status updates. We do have a few changes from before. I think let's go ahead and start with the in progress and go from there. So the first one is one we moved into the sprint last week, and 625. I believe we were waiting for code review from the community on this item. Actually, let me move it to the other screen. That'll be a little easier. Okay, so I think when I looked yesterday, I did not see any further review notes in here. So do we have someone from the community who can take a look at this? We're looking to get as many defects as possible closed out in this sprint. And I believe Gamza's on the call today as well if there are questions on this issue. And
Julie, can you restate the request? I didn't.
Yeah.
Did you want
okay.
people
so
to do a code review or do it run a test? I didn't understand
a
the
code
request.
review. So this is an item where there is a patch that's been submitted, and so this is for the for handling clear instructions. And so there's a patch that's in Garrett, and we're looking to have this closed out in this sprint. So we need code review for the patch that was updated, and then we, if it's reviewed and approved, then someone will need to, the module owner will need to merge it in. But at this point, we're looking for that preliminary code review from community resources.
I think Jono's on the name, right?
He is on there. So Jono's on here, and Shad as well.
I can take a look at it as well.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And that was 6.5. Okay, then let's go on to the next in progress item. That's Vol 651. This was a new defect that we thought that there was potentially a patch available for this already from Mateo, but I have not heard anything back from him. So this was where entering CLI of a non-existing device. If you mistype the device, the command in the command CLI will connect to it anyway, is what he observed. So we thought there was a patch. I've not heard anything back. Has anyone, I know there are a couple of folks that had discussed this with Mateo previously. Does anyone have any additional info on this item? Okay, I will go back to Mateo again and see if we can get a response here. So hopefully there is a patch available as we suspect, but we'll wait to hear from him on that. Okay, the next one is 637. And for this one, we do have an update. Let me see, is Manuel on the call? I don't see Manuel on the call, but he did provide some feedback earlier today. And so this one I think is still going to be pending further discussion. So, and do we have Amit on the call? I don't see Amit either. Okay. So what I would like folks to do is take a look at the response from Manuel, because it looks like the initial proposal from Amit is not what Manuel was looking for. So if we could go back and continue that discussion through JIRA or VOLTHA discuss if needed, that's fine as well. But please take a look at his update here. And we can read it out as well. So this is looking for the CVLAN can't be used as a classifier since it cannot be prescribed, and the traffic shouldn't need to be manipulated or rewritten in order to make it work. He's looking for something other than having a predefined or a reserved VLAN. So he's looking to see if there's a way to instruct the ONU to handle it without predefining the CTAG. And so if we could get some response back to him after you've taken a look at that, that would be great. And then if we need to, we can take it to VOLTHA discuss as well, if more lengthy dialogue is required. Okay. So that one I suspect is not going to make it into 1.3 since we don't have an agreed path forward. And 312 is the next item. Actually, we can probably group all these together. Let me see if Sunny is on the call.
She's not.
Okay, I don't see her on there. So the next batch is related to redfish. So I think we can cover those sort of all at the same time. Last time we'd met, we discussed some testing that Sunny was looking at doing with the edge core and the redfish integration work there. And I believe she's been in dialogue with edge core. And Sean, you may have more status updates than I do on this. But at this point, I believe everything remains open.
Correct. I think it's just compiling the updated driver and also utilizing the patch provided by the edge core and also the BAL code. The compilation has some issue, so they're still trying to work out. I think finally the compilation has been completed. There's maybe the procedure issue when she installed the ONL and then the VOLTHA directory wasn't able to be synced. So okay. I think there's some directory, maybe the installation sequence issue still need to be worked out.
Do we have any idea at this point if we think there's sufficient time remaining in the sprint for the testing, or is it too early to tell still?
Just replicate what Edge Core has done. the testing should be very quick. It's the environment to building it up is the issue. So potentially this one will not be in there. I'm going to talk to Deutsche Telekom, see whether they are also looking for these to be implemented.
Okay. All right. So we will have to track this one, I think, over email with the community. If the testing completes successfully, then if we have agreement from the community, there's sufficient verification work that these can be included in 1.3. So it's still pending at this point, I think.
And I think I'm going to tell Sunny to start using the VOLTHA Discuss instead of the private email. I think the whole community need to do. And yep.
Okay, thank you. I think that would help as well. Thank you. All right, Chip, I do see you on. I think the next issue is an OpenOMCI 609. Let me move over to that item. And this is for implementing the MIB database and the initial MIB sync task.
Yes, and I've got the code completed.
Oh, you just got an update in. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought I'd save you a little time. Yeah, I was able to get up to the code coverage I wanted to on the unit test during ONF last week. And I think the code is complete, so I'm testing it now that I'm back. And I'd like to test it for a day or two just to make sure the ONU adapter can save and retrieve information like it's supposed to. And hopefully I can put that in for review maybe later today or middle of tomorrow, depending on how it is.
Good. So that is on track. Any questions for Chip on this item?
And one thing is, Brian, I can help you on talking about the config store since I spent the last couple of weeks trying to figure out how it works.
Yeah, I'm actually going through it right now. I see how it works now. I'm just right now I'm seeing the remove come from the root to the node, and I'm curious if the path, the way that they're compiling the path to find the key is wrong. And so I agree. I mean, they just need to pull the logs. I mean, there's enough error handling inside of that to be able to tell whether or not that's the case. He's probably just got to pull the logs from it, but I'd love to go through it with you.
Oh, sure.
Brian, did you have the access of the NIC server?
No, I'm just looking at the code. I don't need access to the.
That may be useful if you have the access of that. So.
No, yeah, oh no, absolutely it would. But I mean, I can look at the code and see what it's doing.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you for that. Then let's move on to 570, and we're moving on to Kubernetes. Work in progress. Okay, so Ken, what's our status on this at the moment?
Oh, the code is submitted. Yeah.
Okay.
This code is submitted.
All right,
submitted,
but it's not
last
populating right now. Okay. Okay, so this one is on track then, so we expect that to complete, and it's just not pulling up right now for me into Jira. So let me go on to the next one. Next, we go into more of the redfish items. So we talked about that earlier. I think the last one we addressed is one of the new issues, which was 666. We already have the update there. We can go on to the to-do items. And I'll just touch base with you, Ken, quickly on this one. We talked about it last week for 611 for Docker Swarm cluster integration, and this was related to the containerized pond sim task. This was one where if there's remaining time at the end of the sprint after the Kubernetes work was done, then we'd see if this could be pulled in. And do we have any sense on if there may be time to complete this one? This was a low priority at this point. Or is it still too early to tell while we're finishing up the Kubernetes related work? I think I lost Ken. Okay, I think we can move on from that one. Next,
Oops,
we go to.
sorry.
Oh, you are there.
I was talking to mute all the time.
Happens to all of us.
If we have time, we'll do it. If we don't, then we'll have to move it out.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. All right. Then next, we'll go into the defects that we have in the to-do column. So 624 is the first one we have on the list here today. And I suspect we're in the same state we were last week. So we did have some details from Sunny on reproducibility. So we did have that request back last week for additional details. So do we have questions from the group that need to be taken back to Sunny again on this? Or is there enough that we can have someone take a look at trying to reproduce this? So we're still trying to look for an assignee to take up trying to reproduce this issue. And
I'm wondering.
I'll go back and say this is the. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm wondering this one. You know, Brian. Once you go through those logs, maybe you can also observe some of these ones. I think these can be related. Deleting the net service. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually, I mean, there's quite a bit of information inside of the logs. If you pull it from the, I'm still, in my version, the one that I was using is still the Docker Compose. I'm not using Kubernetes, but I was able to pull the logs, and there's quite a bit of trace information inside of there.
Yep. Maybe we should utilize our own working team meetings and review some of these, Gerard.
Yeah,
I think that would be good.
Okay.
That's
so
a good use cases.
624, Brian's going to look at logs for this, or work with Sunny.
I think with the AT&T as a team, we should look at it together.
Okay, that sounds good. Then we will go on to the next item, and this is Vol 623. And this is the one, it did have some modifications from the initial scope, but it's been stable for, I think, a couple of weeks. This is where the ONT operational status remains showing as failed even after the failure condition has been cleared. And then I don't think we have anything new here. So Sean, is this one I think is perhaps more straightforward, but is this one you were wanting to have the AT&T folks look at as well?
Yeah, let's retest it.
Okay. All right. Then we will go on to 649. This one we were still hoping to find some assistance from the community on working on this defect while Chip was working on the development for OpenOMCI. And so this one is the response decode for MIB upload next fails if the sequence number is greater or equal to 256. And I think Chip, I haven't heard anything from anyone related to this, and no one has assigned it to themselves. So I think we're still in the same boat. So again, we're looking for resources from the community if there's anyone available to assist with this item while Chip's doing development work on OpenOMCI.
Yeah. And I can jump on it next week if no one can, because I can fix it completely with just testing.
Okay.
Are you going to sit in there doing a meeting and doing your coding, I guess?
No, it's just on the plane. Yeah, during your presentation.
I wonder. That the number seems like 2 to the 8th, right? That seems very particular.
No, it's just how they coded up the ONUG entity class. It's just coded up for GETS operations. It needs to support. It has a different format when you do MIB upload next or get next alarm. So that's just the issue.
Is there something about an ONU adapter or something like that?
No, it's all in how SCAPI decodes and how the packet's being formed. So it's just some bizarre SCAPI if conditional logic needs to be added that I was hoping not to learn.
Oh, okay.
but we've had no luck getting resources to date. So Chip, it sounds like the backup plan here is that you think you'll have time to work on this next week after you finish. I forgot the number now. The 609. Yes, 609 that you're currently testing.
And sorry for my ignorance. How often the sequence number will go beyond 256?
It might actually, in a fully configured ONU, it definitely might once you have services installed. But we actually got it on a new upload because we added additional like gem ports and TComp resources. Mm-hmm. So when you do the MIB upload just after a MIB reset, we actually went to 260 because all 260.
Okay.
You get,
can you cut down a few more?
TConts defined that are created by the ONU autonomously. So it's very likely.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there something specific you call Scapy? Is that a language or package?
Yeah, it's a Python package that allows you to write packet encoders and decoders. It's really popular, and that's what the entire entity class for OMCI is written with. And it's a pretty nice language, except when you get into strange things like this.
Okay.
So.
Well, if the community have people knows about this part of the, if you can help, that'd be great. I think right now it would be more specific, right? Someone need to be able to implement using the Scapy. So we're soliciting help, but I think maybe, well, yeah. If there's no help this week, then Chip will resolve it next week.
Okay. So this one, I think, has a good chance of making it into the release. We still have a number of these other open high priority defects that are I'd say, at significant risk at this point. So let me move on to the next one. We've got about 20 minutes left. 6:40, nope, 6:14. Okay, and this one had been converted from a subtask for some of the Kubernetes work to or not from the Ponsim containerization, I believe. So this one has been converted to a defect, and we did discuss it last week as well. And so this one, I believe it's, last we checked, it was on track for completion in Sprint 4. And Ken, are we still on track for this item?
Yes, I just need to assign it to somebody.
Do you want me, you said it just needs to be assigned?
Yeah, we just need to be assigned. I think it will be assigned to Stefan, but I will need to talk to him first.
Ah, okay, so I will not do it on the call then. Okay, thank you.
Well, let's just do it.
All right, 484 is the next open item, and this is delete and addition of flows, not working on the edge core adapter. And this one, okay, our last update had been basically we'd wanted to go back and check and see if this was still observable behavior, and it is. So we still have no one who has picked up this issue to try to work on this. So this one is, I would say, at risk still for inclusion in this sprint, in this release. And so we did have discussion last week. I think it was also related to this ticket really is related to a workaround that's in place. So it's a bit lower priority, I think, because we do have the workaround in place. Ken, you probably can state that better than I can. Or sorry, Kim. Kim was the one who had spoken about this last week.
That's right. That's a good summary, Julie. That's right.
Okay. All right. And I think other items are higher priority in terms of addressing defects in 1.3 since there is a workaround in place. But if there are resources available to take a look at this one, it would be really nice to be able to close it out in this sprint as well. But again, I think the other ones are higher priority at this point. Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay, next open item, 647. And this is one where sending the MIB reset 5 times and VOLTHA configure had an, okay, so this was where we had the MIB reset being sent multiple times when VOLTHA configures each port one by one. There was a fix, there were 2 different aspects of this. One of them is the patch that was submitted here for review. And then also the understanding that when we introduced the OpenOMCI code, that this would resolve the issue as well. So we did talk about merging this, the fix that was submitted into Garrett, merging that in, but I believe it's still waiting for review at this point. Ah, we do have some, okay, we have some in there. So are we ready to merge this one in? Do we just
we need a plus 2, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Do we just need a +2 at this point? Looks like we do have the code review from Girish and Kim in here.
Yeah, no, the code review was, you know, looked, what Girish and I did is look for, you know, the proper fix. It looks like it's okay, but it really would be nice to have some cross coverage or verification on it, that it actually, that somebody else can actually see that working, because, you know, it just kind of seems like some regressions have been picked up, I think, over time, you know, kind of how this one was. So we wanted to make sure that, you know, somebody can verify that that fix is actually solid. So it's really the testing, I think, as it is right now, is only coming from, I think, Nick that submitted the patch. Just needed somebody else to verify that it was actually seemed to be working.
Okay, and I will make then the call on our meeting here today. Do we have anyone who can provide testing for this? Do we have anyone with resources available to test this patch? Okay, I'm hearing nothing. Let me go ahead and add the note here so that we track why we're not merging it in at this point. And then we'll have to see if we can find someone who can do some testing for this over the next week, I would say. Okay.
Hi, Julie. Julie, this is Shad. You can assign it to me. I can do the testing. Sorry.
Great.
Well, it'll be with this new adapter that I'm working on, but that shouldn't matter.
Let's see. I cannot find your drop down in the name here. I'll just.
Maybe last name, Asani?
Maybe. I'll try and fix it later, but right now I'll just put your name. Okay, thank you for that, Shad, much appreciated. And for those who heard him make that comment there about the new adapter, that's related to the discussion topic for Thursday's TST call. So you'll learn more about that, I think, from Shad on that meeting in a couple days.
Maybe we just assign to Shad.
Why don't I go ahead and well, I'll do that after the call. I'll assign it.
I'll do that now.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, now I lost my place here. Here we go, 553. And 553 was an overarching integration testing issue or story that's related to all of the edge core items that are still under testing right now. So this one remains in the to-do column until we resolve the other issues related to Redfish. So that one is still on hold. 506, we did have an update over Jira. And I don't believe Niren's on the call. I do see Andy on. So this one, the update, this is the
Jerry's on, right?
Yeah, I don't
yes,
have any news. I asked yesterday for feedback. I don't have anything yet about an estimation of when it is going to be realized.
All right. So this one, to refresh folks' memory on it, this is multiple pond multicast support. So the patch that was submitted quite a while back needs to be rebased, and then we're waiting on that from Niren. And so we did, Jerry, thank you for following up on that, much appreciated. And once you have more info, please keep us posted on that. Preferably be included in this sprint, but we are getting, you know, we've got a little over a week and a half left. Okay, thank you. All right, our next item is 295, and this one I think had a question for Shad. Let me bring this one. Okay, so Shad, we'd had some discussion about this ticket, and this is for the edge core adapter support for multiple OLTs. There had been some discussion on a previous call about whether or not this issue may have been resolved with a different patch. And so we weren't sure if this was still a valid issue or if it was resolved as a part of a different fix. Do you have any info on this one? Do you know if this is still a valid ticket?
I don't think this is valid. This is too old. But Kim and the Radisys team would probably. So this is specifically for the edge core OLT.
Yes.
And yeah, if the Radisys team can confirm that they have tested the adapter with multiple OLTs, I think we should just close this.
Okay, Kim or Ken, do you have any comments you can provide?
Kim, or if there's anybody else, we have Amit or
oh, sorry, yes, Kim or who else do we have on the call?
Amit, Raghu. Yeah.
I don't see Amit.
Yeah, we'll have to check on that, Julie.
Okay.
So this ticket, the Manuel opened a similar one, right?
Similar, but not the same. It's not the same issue. Is the way the JIRA is written.
Okay.
So there was one for VOLTHA. Well, we can try and find them if you'd like. Let me just add the comment here. Okay. And so I think we looked at them, and the tickets that Manuel had opened were similar, but not actually covering the same use case.
Okay.
So that's why we took it back as a separate one to see if this was still valid. So Kim, if you could just provide an update in JIRA once you have more info, that would be great. And then I think, let's see, I think that takes us through the sprint issues. Let me just make sure. I believe I was at the bottom of the list. Yes. Okay. So that's what we have for the current sprint. And again, next week we have the lockdown, so we won't be having this status update call. So we'll have to deal with it all via updates over email and in JIRA. So we will have to get a little more active on the using JIRA to get the updates in here, I think. So hopefully everything will stay on track. It's a little bit tricky since we're having the closeout of this last sprint the same time as the lockdown. So we'll see how that goes. And also a reminder that during this sprint, we're looking to have the documentation done as well. So we do have a little bit of a hold on one item. I think I can go back to the backlog now because we were waiting to see if we were going to do the release notes for 1.3 based off of 1.2 or 1.2.1. And I think we'll be able to do them off of 1.2.1, but that's still in a draft at this point. I can't get this to scroll. I'll try the mouse. Okay. So we will be looking for updates from the module owners to the release notes for 1.3, for example. Okay. Then there were a few issues we wanted to talk about from the backlog. And, whoops, wrong screen. Let me go back here. So these were ones, for some of them, we've had some updates over the past week. So 464. Okay, so this is one where we have a question back from Ken on whether the community still wants to support Docker Swarm mode with console, since we have our preferred move over to Kubernetes. So this I wanted to bring up for discussion with the community today. And here you can see Ken's note down at the bottom. So since we're moving to Kubernetes and etcd, then we have lower priority for Docker Swarm plus console. So do we still want to support Docker Swarm mode with console? And that's related to—
Would it be Docker Swarm mode with console or Docker Swarm mode with etcd? I'd be more concerned about saying we need to maintain the same key value store because we're going to support one, but be able to deploy under Swarm and Kubernetes as well as maybe even just Compose. So is the issue, kind of the container management orchestration, or is the issue the KV store?
Seems to be the orchestration.
Again, I was on mute.
I was wondering. I didn't think I stumped you, Ken.
So it's really a container management. It's not really between etcd and console. Although we had to change code when we moved from console to etcd. So just try to make it like one deployment, like Kubernetes and etcd, or do we want to still have Docker Swarm around?
Why wouldn't it be Docker Swarm and etcd, I guess is my question.
Yeah.
We had quite a number of issues trying to get etcd work in Docker Swarm a while back. We didn't put a lot of effort into it, but there was an issue. I remember it was a challenge to get it to work in a cluster.
In the deployment, not in the code, or in the code?
No, not in the code. No, not in the code. It's just in the deployment.
Because from a support point of view, I'd worry about supporting two different KV stores. I would think that'd be harder than to support two different container orchestration systems, which essentially just start containers. I would hope that our containers could start under Mesos, K8, Swarm, you name it, so that people could deploy in their orchestration system of choice, although we might kind of only officially support one, I guess.
In principle, they should be able to deploy it in any environment. Obviously, there are some minor changes here and there, but most of the changes that we had to do is really in the deployment. It's not really in the code per se. Like before, when we had Docker Swarm mode, there was some coupling in the code that was done, and that has been removed when we moved to Kubernetes. So in principle, we shouldn't have to change anything to deploy in a different environment, other than have the specific deployment files.
Again, my opinion would be it'd be interesting to have someone look at it, try to start the latest code with Swarm and etcd, and at least see if there's issues or if it just works. And going forward, assuming it just works, then maybe going forward we, maintain as a contrib offering, if you will, Swarm stack files.
Yeah, that's a possibility. We just need to make sure that go back and try to figure out why we couldn't get etcd to work.
Yeah.
In Swarm.
So I think for 1.3, I think we probably don't want to look into that. Maybe in 2.0 timeframe.
Yeah,
we can
makes
look
sense.
at that, right? Because, yeah, I think I agree with David, right? I think the XCD part seems like part of the framework, and then the Swarm versus the Kubernetes, that's just the Docker management, right? So it seems like in different level of the architecture. So
okay, and we've got about 3 minutes left here. So this will kind of pick discussion up, I think, for 2.0. And let me go back to my list. 5:31. So this one, David, was one of yours that I was wondering if this should be in Sprint 4. This is a question from me.
If we're going to support clustered ONOS for HA, then this needs to be completed. Right now, I suspect we support a single instance of ONOS container, so we're not running ONOS in HA mode. I mean, that was the same. Well, for the most part, that was the same thing. True for the Swarm too.
Okay, so sounds like we likely do not need this in this sprint. Okay.
And if you want true HA over all of VOLTHA, you need to run ONOS in a Swarm or ONOS in a cluster. And we also have to update the apps to support clustering, which hasn't been done either.
I think we definitely can add this item into the 2.0 support. I think I don't know under the cord, what's the ONOS high availability strategy for the cord itself, right? So I know, so maybe that's something we can align up.
I'm pretty sure both under cord and VOLTHA, the HA strategy for ONOS is hope.
Is what? Hope? Okay.
Hope, yes, and good luck. It's hope as a strategy.
Okay. ONOS is definitely part of the core, and some people the deployment core they don't need to deploy the VOLTHA. So let me go aligned up with the core team and see what's their HA strategy.
Okay, thanks, Sean. And then Ken, I think I had a question for you on this one. I suspect you're just pulling it in when it's ready, but I did see it was in progress. So integration testing with Kubernetes. Since this is in progress, should we go ahead and move it into the sprint?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'll do that after the call since we're about out of time. 6:40 was the next one that had a question. And so this was related to some testing that Jason had. I don't see Jason on the call today. So this was a question for him on whether this has been retested. So I'll follow up with him offline. So I think this one remains open and remains in the backlog till we hear back from Jason. 6:46 was a request for folks to look at this in different environments. So Sean, this may be another candidate. Now let's see if we have this one had been for another issue raised by Nick, where the 10 gig was not working off of the Broadcom ONU. And so there had been a question if this had been working in other test environments. And I have not heard anything back from other labs, other testers.
Right.
So
we know in Sunny in Austin lab it worked, right? So
so it worked, but does it still work is I think the question. Is having it working in the past with different code is just making sure it's still working at this point.
I don't believe the ONU adapter has changed much.
Yeah, I don't think so. Is this something that we could ask for retest in Sunny's lab, perhaps?
Sure.
Okay.
But I think, to be honest, I don't think this is the 1.3 we can put
No,
it
it's
into
in the backlog.
Okay.
It's in the backlog, but we were just following up on a few of the defects that had been under discussion, and we're waiting for some updates. Okay, and then 647 is one more, and that one I think was waiting for code review, since there's been some code submitted for this. And I think we already talked about, yes, we already talked about this one, so we're done there. Okay, I think that is it. We're a couple minutes over, so apologies for running a little bit late. Hopefully folks saw in the meeting notes, we do have one more call on Thursday with some more presentation on some proposed work for 2.0, for example. And then we can have some continued discussion if the group would like on the proposals that have been submitted so far, if there are additional follow-up questions. Do we think we need to add another 30 minutes to the call for Thursday? So right now we have the presentation from ONF, and then we do have, if we want to extend the time, then we could have continued discussion of the material that's been presented thus far, if people have more questions they'd like addressed prior to the lockdown. Would that be beneficial to the group to add 30 minutes on Thursday?
I think let's just plan on it. If we use it,
Okay.
then we use it. If we don't use it, then that is fine. And I encourage people to attend the Thursday call. Remember, Thursday call is an hour earlier. So the Shad and Sarav and Jono, they're going to present the new simplified OpenOOT adapter. So I definitely would like community comment on that.
Okay, so that will take, I think, the bulk of the time, and then we'll have sort of free form at this point, exchange of ideas on the previous material. And so unless someone steps forward with another presentation they'd like. But at this point, I think it'll just be continued discussion amongst the community with any remaining time we have. And then a reminder that during the week of the lockdown, we will not have these calls because we will all be, most of us will be involved in the face-to-face meeting. So I think that is it for today's agenda. Any last items or questions before we go? Or Sean, anything else you need to make in terms of announcements about next week? We still have Thursday to discuss anything as well.
Yeah, we still, yeah.
Okay.
Just a fair warning. There will be some exploration between the work. Will probably and collaboration work. Not, I wouldn't say collaboration. Both with the two organizations, ONF and BBF, want to explore what's the difference between the VOLTHA and BAA. I think a lot of service providers have the same question. So there will be some some planning is in place. So we will send out an email to let the community know. So.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Anything else? All right, I will go ahead and stop the recording. So thank you, everyone. And just a reminder that, again, about documentation. So start thinking about what needs to be updated in the release notes for your section for 1.3. And I will go ahead and stop the recording and close the bridge for today. Thank you very much.